Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest internet radio station on the planet.
Even the other radio stations are tuning in.
Your choice, your music. UChoiceRadio.com.
So they brought us in as a group so that we could have therapy. And from there, it was the psychiatrist was asking why we felt we needed to be there. And at high school, I was like, I'm saying I don't need to be here. And, went about our day. And then they just isolated it to him. That was my first experience with counseling, therapy, so on and so forth. As I got older, I had friends, my best friend, Dwayne, and my best female friend, currently my wife, Frances. They've been big on counseling, therapy. They did Black studies when they went to college. And so I got more familiar with it from talking to them. And it was something I was pushing back on at first because I'm like, that's whack, who needs that? We all go through the struggle, only the strong survive. Just repeating those cliches that we are used to, thinking that's, making somebody, stronger, tough. And what ends up happening is you just continue to hold that stuff in, and you blow up. And so what I'm trying to share is those vulnerabilities, those tough conversations. And like I remember one thing at a barbershop, this is just talking about, heartbreak. And I remember a gentleman was there and he was like, the love of his life broke his heart. And from that experience, he was going to be a player for life. He wasn't going to never let a girl break his heart. He was going to do him dirty forever and ever. And as I got older, I started thinking about it. And I realized that for most men, the first person that breaks their heart is their actual mom. And so that's where it came from me. And I started to see that. And because my mom, she left when I was in kindergarten. And so, I'm growing up as a kid playing with my cousins, thinking I'm living the life. While all alone, there's this thing called, abandonment issues. And so the abandonment issues, I'm just living like nothing's wrong. I think I'm a passionate lover, but all along what I was doing was trying to mask or create a void that I had experienced. And so it would make me self-sabotaging, like if I felt like somebody was trying to leave, you know, the whole nine. And my actual second experience, I didn't go to counseling on my own. Well, that's a lie. So I guess you can call court ordered things court ordered things where they take you, to, anger management, things like that, uh, as a form of counseling. But what I'm really talking to is more so on a more intimate level. Uh, I will have my personal therapist on at one of these episodes. Right now, she's dealing with a family emergency, and she'll come on. Now, I do want to talk about, how you can actually find what I did to find a therapist. And so for me, I didn't want anyone that I couldn't relate to. And so I searched through the list of local Black therapist counselors. And well, actually, I did it through my insurance because you can sign in and see who's covered. And so when I found her, uh, just made sure she had availability, came in, and I promised myself that I would be open. And one of the first things that we started to talk about, as I started to talk, as she brought up, she had asked me uh, the relationship I had with my mom. based off of what I was experiencing then. And from there, we started to break things apart and have an understanding. Because if you can understand, then you can be more empowered to make a change, or you can recognize certain patterns within yourself. It's easy for us to call out other people's shit. The hardest thing, for us to do is to like look inside, and even all the while we're so giving to other people, even as a man, like everything about you is taught to provide, to give, to you know not put yourself first. And that's something that we do have to change, because if we ain't got self together, shit else ain't gonna fall in line. Like real talk. And so from there, what I was doing, going every day, recognizing the patterns that was happening, and trying to rebound or recover from some of my, you know, self-fulfilling needs. It was crazy around my house, you know, and I didn't recognize, I'm sitting up here like, you know, love me as much as I love you, and expecting somebody to understand what my wants and needs were without even voicing them. And so being able to understand that the void had been there, and that all the patterns that I had from all the relationships that I had before, self sabotaging, little depression up and down, trying to love too hard, masking everything because the inner child that I had, from when my mom left when I was in kindergarten. And I don't take that, away from her. Like that was something I had to walk and grow through as well. So we actually had a, my counselor, my therapist, she actually, encouraged bringing my mom in for counseling and therapy. And, she did own up to it, right? And another thing that I recognized before, and it's a pattern in my family, was that, her mom had left her. And then my grandma's mom had left her mom had left her. And, those roots are from Arkansas. And that thing stemmed from slavery. So my other friend Dwayne, he had said at one time, to recognize that somebody did the best they could with what they had. And so as I started to heal the relationship with my mom by bringing her in counseling and therapy, and actually having my therapist be a voice of reason for some other things that was going on there, it actually helped to heal that, relationship there, and heal it in a way to where like I just had like a joking relationship with my mom, right? And it's still, like that mostly. But, you know, I recognize, where she has been, uh, where she's grown, and where she's going to continue to grow. And even in, some of my darkest times, I could always pick up the phone and call my mom, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Uh, she showed up for me in a time where I really needed it. And we'll get into those types of situations, those darkest moments, later in episodes. But I do want to share, my experience, you know, first discovering, you know, the abandonment issues and the anxiety that comes with that from, when someone's gone or waiting for somebody to call you back. Like, I was just thinking, at first, you think that that thing is only for, women. And, I thought I was being I thought I was being a sucker out here. And I was trying to figure out like, why do I have these, feminine type emotions, so to say? And so, I'd always felt awkward about it. And, some people would, laugh, be like, chill out, play that game, act like you don't care, so on and so forth. But I could do it for a time, but what was really inside of me was going to come out. What's really inside of you is going to come out. No matter how long we try to hold, suppress it, it's going to come out. So we just have to get to a way, and therapy, will help you get to a way to where you can recognize things, release before blow ups, you know. So that's going to be the goal, here through everyday life experiences. We'll bring a few people on. If anybody else wants to come on, we'll have those conversations, and we'll, we'll make it do what it do. I'll always share, I'll be open, honest. That was the whole thing. That was a whole goal of mine. How this thing even started, I had been thinking about it for, quite some time. And I just didn't want to, it was the vulnerability portion that was holding me back. And a friend of mine, Kai, I used to work with, she got a podcast on UChoice Radio. Shout out UChoice Radio. And all the podcast teams, go look at the page. We got some good content, and, check people out. But she was asking, you know, to find people to do, a podcast if they had ideas for a show, to help them out. And so that was a sign because I was starting to think about it at the turn of the year. And so I went out, told her my thoughts and ideas. She was like, that's some good shit. That's some good shit. And then the next day is when Twitch had committed suicide. And she had sent me a post where, you had black women encouraging black men to seek help when they need to. I'm not sure why it's so taboo and why, you know, we've had to mask things for so well, actually I do know. You know, it's come from, it comes from, slavery, holding things in, trying to, make it get by. Even at little as little kids, boys are told, not to cry, hold that in. So I made a conscious effort to not do it with my son, not as much. So there's a difference between uh, crying and recognizing someone's feelings, and when someone's crying, to be a little bit ratty. Now, I won't tell people how to, parent, because, we all fucked up. We all just trying to grow and be better and give better to our kids. Well, that's the goal. But I'm trying to raise a better version of myself, you know, so that, we can, as a community, be better. We can have, you know, better husbands for our wives, better fathers for our kids, you know, better coaches for, other kids in the neighborhood. Like we're always going to have, you know, somebody that, you know, may not have, a father in their life, right? Now, we do know that studies show, from the CDC, that black men, make sure we're changing this narrative and we're spitting facts. Black men, other than any demographic of people, actually spend more quality time with their kids, whether that's through sports, helping with homework, spending time with them in those manners. So we ain't all shitty, but we can all be better. And that's the goal here. And that's why I want to have these conversations so that, we can do that because we all go through that shit. I'm fortunate enough to where even without my mom being in my life, I got to live with my grandpa, around my uncles, around my cousins. So I had, for me, black men in my life that I could actually look up to. So shout out to all them. That's where I learned where to, change brakes, change oil, uh, work on things, use tools. Even at the time where I had, it's the guys, it's the fellas, looking up to them. At first, I when I got old enough, I was trying to, show them how I got it, how many, women I had, who could get the prettiest, so on and so forth. And I remember my big cuz, Brian, who I look up to, uh, he came in town from Denver, and I was showing him out. And at the time, taking him everywhere, taking him, this girl, this girl, this girl, this girl. Then we ended up at a friend's house. We was just friends at the time. And he looked at me. We was talking. He looked at me. He was like, "Man, cuz it don't matter what you say, what you do. I see you out here doing all of that. That girl's about you." And from that moment is when we started to have more serious type of conversations. And he even said that it sparked him to contact his best friend at the time. And we both married the people that we were talking about that night. And so I'll bring him on one day because he gives, great advice. And, he's been there for me, in some dark times. He's older than me. So he's had a little bit more experience than me in living, especially the everyday family man life, So we're going to share that because a lot of us, a lot of people don't actually have that. And so I'm just here, to help facilitate open conversation, open dialogue. And even if we got to get up, to have accountability partners, I'm willing to do that. And I'm sure other people will be willing to do that so that we can, continue to grow as a people again, so that we can be better husbands, better fathers, better coaches, better teachers, better in the workplace, just so that we have somebody to look up to and so that we can, you know, share different things that we learn. And if we need to, sometimes, some shit's embarrassing. You don't want to fucking talk about some shit. You can go to counseling for that. You don't want to confide in somebody. You don't want, some people to see, the really darked up, fucked up, ugly in you. And we've all been there. Uh, I believe a lot of people have had, suicidal thoughts. I've been there. I've had people come through, show up for me, uh, do whatever. It's stressing as fuck, to be, you know, a black man and trying to, hold everything down. You know, Sometimes we've lost our jobs. You know, the best, it used to be the best I used to feel was when I had a fresh haircut, a fresh outfit, and, because it was this surface stuff. And it looks like you got it all together, got everything put together, and, you lose a job, you know, that's where, a lot of most of us feel, our self-worth is in our finances. Now it's important, you know, you can't get through life, broke, but you're more than that. We're more than that. And we have to, be able to navigate those experiences. So you do find, there's a myth, that only white people, commit suicide when they lose their jobs and stuff because, we've been struggling for so long. The shit's false. You see it in the news with social media at times too. A lot of black, well, not a lot, but some black men, just men in general periods. We ain't have to put a color on it. You know, break up with somebody. Kill themselves, or wipe out the whole family. And you know, we need to do. We need to get that stuff out because if we actually look inside and start to develop self worth by doing self work, Sky's the motherfucking limit, right? You know, just make a plan, you know. And so I, you know, have been there, you know. It's it's it feels lonely in those times, in those moments. And oftentimes, you know, we don't want to talk to nobody in those moments. Like we don't want to share that, you know. But if, you know, having these conversations, being open about it, you know, the idea is to hope that it, you know, sparks that, you know, thought in you that somebody's there for you. I'll be there for you. You got people that love you, people that care for you, people that need you, right? You'll always be able to rebound. Like the the light is just on the other side of darkness, right? You know, we just celebrated Martin Luther King. You know, darkness can't drive out darkness, only light can do that. So depression is a real thing. You know, I won't be the one to tell somebody, you know, get your ass up out of the bed, you know, immediately, right? Because it's a process, you know, that you have to go through. So we do have to, you know, be sensitive, be, you know, empathetic towards people when they're going through it, while at the same time not enabling them. And so that's what I want to do. That's what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna grow this thing. Back to, you know, I went on a little rant there, but back to, you know, the abandonment issues. One of the things that, you know, I worked on to, you know, grow past that, and I stumbled upon it on accident. My wife wanted to start gardening, and you know, as a man, I always, you know, she calls herself the brain and I'm the muscle. You know, for our relationship, that's what works for us. And so she had the brain. You know, I started doing the stuff put together, and I actually liked it. And so once you get into, you know, counseling therapy, you'll hear these terms called, you know, coping skills. And grounding is one of those coping skills. And what grounding is like, you know, you getting connected with like the earth. So if you think of like positive and negative, you know, energy or batteries, there's a ground. And so it gets that energy off of you and puts it into the earth by digging into the soil. And that was, you know, fucking, you know, mind blowing, changing in how I started to, you know, feel for myself. And so I continue to do that, you know, to this day. You know, we all have to have some form, you know, of escape. You'll hear like, you know, some of the best athletes out there. They put all their shit on the court, you know. They developed their craft. They was putting that energy into that. Some people work out, you know. You have some people that get angry, they go for a walk, you know. You got some people on the flip side, you know, they, you know, continue down a self-sabotaging path, you know, where they can go down, you know, drinking or trying to ignore, you know, the things. But grounding for me was what worked and helped me to, you know, get a lot of stuff up off of me naturally. Once I was able to start to get things up off of me naturally, having, you know, repairing the relationship, you know, with my mom and being able to recognize skills and patterns, I became able to, you know, create mantras, you know, write things on my mirror, you know, tell myself I'm better than that, you know, tell myself, you know, that I'm, you know, already loved, you know, I don't need the validation, you know, from anyone else, you know. So those are a few of the things that, you know, help me. And I'm hoping that my openness, you know, gets out there, you know, to other people. Uh, that ain't the only shit that I had going on in life. I've been through some shit. We've all been through some shit. And so I'm going to share. Hope this community comes in to share. Hope y'all go subscribe, download the UChoice app, hit me up. You can find me on Instagram, Black Man's Mental, and we'll make this thing shake. We'll make this thing grow. Do what we got to do. In the meantime, y'all be easy, especially to yourself. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest internet radio station on the planet.
Even the other radio stations are tuning in.
Your choice, your music. UChoiceRadio.com.